Hi everyone, I'm Ronnie Walter. Welcome to this video. I am an artist and teacher, illustrator, and an author, and I am mostly just happy that you are here and ready to paint. So today's design, our little tutorial, is really sweet. I really like it. Okay, this is a 5x7, and it's a sort of Christmas floral spray. And you could use this space for a party invitation or just a lovely greeting, maybe a Christmas menu. It has lots of uses. You can do it without this part if you want and just make it a really lovely card, or just happy holidays, Merry Christmas. And I think you're going to enjoy this one. It's a fun one. It's very, I found it very meditative. So I hope you enjoy it. And I thank you so much for being here. You have no idea how much I appreciate all the wonderful comments, and it's so great. It's so much fun. It's so much fun. So grab your paintbrush, grab your paints, and let's paint. Okay, today we're going to do this little Christmas greenery and floral spray, and I think it's going to be really pretty. I'm working on a 5x7 piece of cold press watercolor paper. This is 100% cotton. It's very nice paper, and I'm looking forward to using it. Whenever I pick paper, because I use line with my watercolor, I'm always looking, I don't like a super rough texture, so I play around with a lot of different kinds of paper. This is actually Blick Studio's 100% cotton paper, which I'm quite happy with. Okay, so this is like, I don't think you can, I just realized my light was casting a shadow. Anyway, here we are. I think you can see my pencil on here, but you can download, it'll be actually a little tidier than this, download your own PDF if you want to trace it onto your own paper. So I had drawn this, I kind of played around with it to get the layout right in Procreate, and then I printed it out. And here it is. So I've done a really very light, just indicating where things are going to go. I'm not drawing it out completely because I don't want all that pencil on there. Okay, so we're going to start painting. I am using my usual paint set, which is a variety of brands of good paint. There are two paints that I have put into this blank palette and then let dry. So I will be using this palette, and then I have an extra one because I ran out of space on that one. And so we have more colors over here. So I'll probably be using some of these greens that I have over here for this painting. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is, I'm going to move this out of the way for a second. And what we want to do is activate the paints. I have a very inexpensive spray bottle, and we just wet those and get those activated. I will do the other palette as well. I'm probably not going to use any of these, so I'm not going to activate it. It doesn't matter if I did. And then, of course, I don't want any extra water on my paper. I will be using this number 10 round, which is a Princeton Velvet Touch. And mine has a little funky tip on it. And I hope yours does not, but I'm learning to live with it, even though I've tried all the methods to get it to be pointed. I think I might be getting to it. Okay. We will be using line later, and I will show you what we're using. But we're going to start painting. Now, I'm going to start pretty loose. I want this to be a really kind of just a beautiful floral. I don't know if I'll achieve beautiful, but it'll be a lovely floral. So, move that out of the way. I will try to keep the paints in camera view so you can see the colors that I am mixing. In the description of this video down below, there is, first of all, the link to for the tracing, which is there, and also a list of my colors. Now, like I said, I'm not brand loyal necessarily. I like what I like. I keep a pretty clean palette. I'm not adding a ton of convenience colors. But having said that, oh, the other thing that I have here is, this is really important. I have another piece of this same watercolor paper that I'm going to use to test my colors. And that's really important because you don't want to put a color down on your actual painting where you go, oh, gee, I hate that. So we will work those colors out on our little paper before we go. So I'm just adding water to this part of my palette to get it going. And I was doing a Christmas design the other day, so I think I have a nice red. I really like kind of the pink poinsettias. I'm going to go a little bit more watery. I only have the one poinsettia in this design. Yeah, I want it to be light. I am going to go in and darken some of the interior of it. So what I'm going to do is, okay, so I have this. I'm checking my camera. Yes, you can see that. So I'm loading up my brush, getting a nice, and here's another reason for you to practice. We're going to be kind of doing a brushy stroke that's going to be we're just going to drag it out. Because poinsettias, that's not really actually how a poinsettia leaf goes. So it's more like kind of a bell shape. Okay, so you just want to, sometimes you just want to practice that. It's like your brain is going to lock in on what that shape looks like. So I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to start going around that poinsettia. And I'm using, like, this might feel like a big brush for these small spaces, but if you have a decent brush, you can get into small spaces. So I'm kind of laying it down the tip and then using the belly of the brush to get some of that paint through there. And I want those imperfections. If I were trying to get a solid look, I would use a different kind of paint. Watercolor should look watery, and I'm trying to draw out those tips a little bit. This is going to be pretty. He's got a little, okay, I'm going to add just a little more in there. I want that thing. And again, don't be afraid to move your paper. We're not the, that's how we get things done. So, okay, so I'm finishing this last kind of front petal on the poinsettia. So I want to let that dry because I'm going to go behind, and I want those to look separate. So that's the first poinsettia. And then I'm also going to go in at some point and add a little more red in the inside. One thing I know about watercolor is adding, if I just kept adding paint, like going over and over and over this, that doesn't add to the saturation. We have to wait for it to dry, and then we can go in if we want to build up color. It's only going to take as much, I find this hard to explain. The paper is only going to take so much. Like if I go in, whoops. and if I go on top of this that's dried, you can see how it gets darker. But if I am trying to paint this, and I put it on, and I keep putting it on, I keep putting it on, I keep putting it on, all it's doing is adding more water. It doesn't get darker by doing that. You have to wait for it to dry to build up a darker layer. So we're going to leave that one alone. Okay. Then these small flowers, I'm going to reference back to our drawing. These small flowers are just going to be little white, I don't know what those are, those little white, kind of white flowers that are often in wintry things. So I'm just going to do the middles of those with that yellow. And eventually I'm going to want to put yellow inside the poinsettia, but I'm going to wait. And at the last minute, I added this last little spray over here. And then I'm going to start working on the greens. But the first thing I'm going to do is put those little yellow centers in. And I'm going to use a really lovely warm yellow. This is so small in the painting that whatever yellow you come up with is going to be just fine. So that's really pretty. Okay, so I'm just going to dab a couple of blobs on there. I'm not going to get too fussy because I'm not really going to be literally outlining each one of those with black. You'll see what happens when we do that. So, and then we have this little one down here. Am I in camera range? I don't know, I sort of cracked myself up. Like, you can see there's a little hook on the end of this brush for me. And that's kind of frustrating. Okay, I'm just kind of, your brush can kind of hoover up the excess paint, just kind of vacuuming it up. I'm gonna do that. Okay, there we go. So those are just gonna live there for a while, and I will come back when I know this is a little more dry, and then we'll use some blue to make those little white flowers pop out, and it will also give us some, and then the line work will kind of finish off that story. Okay, all right. Next thing we're gonna do is, what I like about doing greenery is you can use a lot of different colors of green. So I have some already going here from other projects, and I want to make sure that like each type of green or each type of greenery, I want to have a slightly different green so it just doesn't look boring. So I have some holly dealies going off there, some little hollies. And then I have more that are like a, what do you call those? A pine, like pine fronds. Are they fronds? I don't know. I lived in Florida a really long time. I'm used to saying palm fronds. But anyway, little pine sprays and then just some random made up vines. Okay, so I'm going to go in, and I used this for a Thanksgiving card. So it's kind of a lovely green. Very pretty. Okay, so I am going to, this is going to be kind of weird because I'm also figuring this out. And just so you know, I am referencing this a lot because I wanted to use such minimal pencil marks on here that I'm kind of making this up as I go. But I'm going to start with some holly. Okay, so that holly is here. So let's see, that shape is kind of a, I'm going to do like half the holly leaf and another half of a holly leaf. And then we have two hollies over here that are, you can see how, even this is a big brush, it's a number 10, I can still get into some fairly small spaces. Not a huge fan of using little brushes, as you can tell. So then this one comes, and I'm conscious that this holly is behind these white flowers. Okay. So there you go. I have half my hollies on there. And I'm going to go in, and now, because I don't need this color anymore, I'm going to use this Windsor. It's just called Windsor Green. And it's lovely. I assume it's their signature green. And I want to make sure that it's different enough. Yeah, that's really pretty. And then I'm going to do these kind of blobby leaves. I'm going to make sure I'm not putting my hand. So I'm just making little, I always tell people, like people that have never done watercolor, I'm like, if you can make a parentheses. So basically we're doing a bloop, bloop. Just a little roundish leaf. And then that's how you make that shape. Okay, so we're coming in. And this, in this particular, gotta move my hand out of the way, little vine, the stem will be with the line work. So we're just doing these little back and forth, little, there. Okay, that's enough for now. And then there's another one that's coming out of here. So that starts here. Sorry, my brush and my light are acting up with each other. If you hear that click, it's because I keep hitting my light with my brush. So it's just going to get, that will end up getting a little bit buried in there. And so now that I've done those two, I'm going to come in and suck up some of that excess paint. Very pretty. Very pretty. Okay. It's actually coming together already. So now that I know that that part of the poinsettia is dry enough, I'm going to come in and add the yellow berries. Oops, that was a little bit contaminated. I'm just going to put those berries in there. Just that center. There we go. This is going to be a really effective design, even though you can see I am really, it's not a lot of lines. Maybe because I decided to do 4 white flowers on it. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is there's this little, you know, just to add some interest. See this little viney thing I'm doing, this little berries? I'm going to do that in blue. Because why not? Let's add one more color to this. You know, I've designed a lot of Christmas in my life when I was actively licensing my work. And boy, after a while, you're like, can I do something besides red and green on Christmas? And people are like, no, we want red and green. Okay, that's a little, oh, that's pretty. Okay, so this is basically, because it's just my pile of blue. Again, I don't really care what color blue this is as long as it's a pretty blue. So this is basically ultramarine and phthalo that just all got mixed up. So these little berry things, they kind of stick out on sticks. So I'm painting them sort of outside the stem. When I put the line work together, you'll see how they all come together. And then I have another one over here, a smaller one. And let's put one under there. Okay. And then we have another one over here. This always looks so weird to me, and the line work is what pulls it all together. I'm always impressed by people that do watercolor without line work, because to me it's how I finish something. This is very it's kind of a quiet design for me. And then down here in this little area here, I am adding just little ones down here. Maybe I should be having Christmas music in the background, but it's too early for Christmas music while I paint this. Okay, cute. And I just realized when I was looking at my sketch that I do have one more of those, of this one. So I'm going to go back over here. Oh, wait, no, I didn't. Okay, I'm going to go over here and do this leaf. There. That's really pretty. Okay, so we're good with that. I'm now going to put the other side of the holly in, and I'm going to use my other palette because I want to go in with a more just a brighter limey green than the others. I don't want it to be too jarring or too whimsical. So that was this green. Oh, that would be pretty. A nice bright green on there. This is why we have our little practice dealie. Okay, so everything's dry here, so I can move my hand on here. So I'm just going to add the other side of the holly. With that lighter green. I have got to fix the point on this brush. I know I keep saying that, but by golly, I'm going to do it. Oh, those are looking so pretty. So this one's a little more clustery. Oh yeah, I like that color. I think that added a nice something to that design. Okay. Well, this is coming right along, isn't it? Okay. The other thing I'm going to do, because I'm going to go back into this poinsettia because they need to have leaves behind. So yes, okay. Here's what I'm going to do. I want to get that. I'm going to put the more the pine fronds on there. Boughs. That's what they are. I guess they're boughs, aren't they? Or are they not a bough until you make them into something? The great debate. The great pine debate. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, because I'm going to use this is Sap Green, but I wanted to have a little more Christmassy green in it. So I'm adding that. So it's really Sap Green so far, and the Windsor green. And now I'm going to go over to my other palette and grab a little bit of the Phthalo green. So I'm doing this off camera. Okay, now we're getting somewhere, because I want it to be a different green than what we've used so far. Do I like that? Let's add a little more phthalo green. Oh my God. I don't know, it's a little blue. Let's add more of the sap. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. That is exactly the color I want. Yes, okay. So I want a little more water in there. So in this case, I am going to paint the little, I guess it's the stem. What do you call that? Well, the thing everything hooks to. And then I'm going to come in, and you know how a pine needle kind of, they have an end to them, and then I'm just going to come in and make them look like pine needles. And I am, again, using the side of this brush. It's pretty cool. Okay, and then we have one, I have it coming up off the top here. Again, we put that end apart and then come in. And these, again, they're going to take shape a little more when I use the line. All right, and then what else do we have? Okay, so I have kind of a twofer going up over here. So we're going to go like that and that. So we want to put that end thing on there. And that one also has an end dealie. And we have another twofer over here. I kind of like this. Now, you can do these as original pieces and send them to people or frame them. But, you know, you can scan, or even if you have a good phone, take a really good picture, and you could make your own Christmas cards where you can print them out, either at on your home printer or at like a big box like Staples or someplace like that. Okay, I think we have a really nice little, these branches are really sweet. Okay, and then we're gonna do the little extra down here. And so I'm coming up here, because we are gonna put lettering on the inside. These are fun to paint. And then this one's coming off here. So we're really just finishing out the story. You don't want to rush this because it is kind of a meditative. You know, part of making art is not just the result, it's the process. It's really so satisfying to make these marks and to make decisions along the way, and I just love that. Okay, while I was letting things dry, I realized that I really wanted to have a little more contrast in these pine fronds. And so I came in with a little brown and just added kind of a broken line inside there. So I'm going to show you how I did that on this one. So it's just this is burnt sienna, and it's a little dirty because I have a little black in there. But I'm just going to go in with the point of my brush, and it's just a matter of just adding just a little, not a solid line, just to indicate that inside there is a little brown twig. Okay, done. Ta-da. Okay, so now we'll do the line work. I'm going to try to keep my hand out of there, but you know me. So move this out of the way. I try to get my tools out of the way because I can start knocking into them. But I'm going to use this Micron 01 pen. It is archival ink. It is waterproof. If I decide to go back in with watercolor later, it will not smear. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to start. I'm going to try to keep my hand out of that pine bough at this point. And I don't want to, so when I do line work, or kind of the technique of line and watercolors, and you're just not outlining areas, you're kind of the black should enhance the paint. We're not just cartooning where we're outlining something, or if we start with line work, we're not just coloring with the paint. They're each doing their own job. So I'm not going to mimic this completely. So like for instance, in these little, whatever those little knobby things are in the middle of poinsettias, I'm just kind of going in and indicating that they're there. I'm not making complete circles. And then I'm going to come in and just, it can be a broken line, particularly if you have a wobbly hand. Oh, that's fine. We work with what we got. So I'm not outlining it. I'm just bringing that around to enhance that look, to enhance those shapes. I'm going to go around on that, on those front leaves. I don't know, are they petals or leaves on poinsettias? Because the petals and leaves all look alike. I'm going with leaves. Again, something I could look up. All right. Okay, then we'll do the back ones. Oh, I did one other thing in your absence. is I added a couple of little holly berries in with the hollies. Just a couple of little blobs. Okay, I'm happy with that. Now, let's go back to my practice thing. Do we want to indicate those veins? Does that add or does it distract? I'm leaving it. Oh, but you know what I am going to do? I'm just going to put a little tiny indicator of shadow under there. Okay, that I like. Really subtle. All right, now we're going to start on our little white posies here. And I'm doing the same thing with the yellow. It's just kind of making little parentheses. I'm going to come around with this edge. And this paper, this watercolor paper is a little more textury, so I'm getting kind of a different line. I'm using a really light touch, and I'm going to do the same thing I did over there. So I'm just going to add these little whiskers. Okay. And now that I did that with that, I'm doing it with all of them. I'm conscious of like what's in front of something else, which is why I stopped dead on that back poinsettia, because actually that white one is, that part of the poinsettia is tucked behind that white. But again, in the big scheme of things, people are going to be looking at sort of the overall of it, not the funny little things you may have done. Okay, I think this is really pretty. You know, my stock and trade has always been cute, but every once in a while, I like pretty. Yeah, this is fun. It's just kind of a really, doing the line work for me can be very meditative. Very cute. Now we're going to do our little pal down at the bottom, same way we did the top ones. And the more line work you do, the more control you have with your lines. I think this is turning out really cute. Okay, now we're going to start to go into our greenery. So on these right here, we're just going to make that line and then just do the parentheses, 1, 2, 1, 2. And this one is going to have that line, and then these go out on sticks like that. And I am going to give those a little, not a complete circle, just kind of indicate that they are round. They're a little, some sort of made up berry. Okay, we're going to come in and do that one. And then again, we got the sticks. These are cool. I like this design. Parentheses again. To me, the line work is what all of a sudden is like, okay, now we got something going. And then I'm going to do these little holly berries. That one came out kind of weird because it's sticking right on the end of that thing, but yeah. One of those design things where it's like, ugh. But that's where it landed. You can put yours somewhere else so you don't get that weirdo juxtaposition of those two objects. Now, I am going to put some veins on that. I can't tell you how much I want to sing Christmas carols when I draw these objects. You know, like Haul Out the Holly. but I will save you from my singing. All right, that's really coming out. Okay, so let's go down here and do these little berries. I liked adding that blue. I think that was a nice touch. You don't want things to get too green. Okay, so oh, we got one more of those. Oh, we got one more of these too. And this one. Do I seem quiet today? Maybe it's the design. Okay, I am quite happy. Okay, now we're going to do the palm thingies, whatever we decided to call these. And all I'm going to do is, I'm not going to be literal. I'm going to just add some little black lines in there to give it just enough weight, because I don't want them to feel like they have been left behind. But we're just going to add just, you know, oh, that I like that. You know, it's one of those things too. If we're going to put line work on one thing, you kind of need to do it on everything. But I want this to be subtle. Again, I'm not literally outlining them. I'm just going to put that broken line down the middle. Oh, I didn't do that on that one. I like that. Let's do a broken line. Yep, okay. And then come in and just kind of random. Like, don't necessarily follow the green, because we're giving it kind of some contrast. I suppose it could look a little bit like shadow, again, without being literal. Oh my gosh. Do you love the sound of that? I don't know if you can hear it hit the paper, but it's a really good sound. Well, that's awful pretty. And now our final one's down here. You could even use this design if you have, you could make it as a menu card or an invitation. If you wanted to put words in the center, you know, Christmas dinner, I think that would be really cool. Okay, I think this is really awesome. I'm going to go in with my kneaded eraser and gently erase any of my pencil marks. Oh, this is also where you find where you missed things. I missed a berry. There we go. And again, I like this kneaded eraser because it is gentle on the paper. Doesn't leave crumbs. And they're very inexpensive. Okay, we're going to do two things. One is I'm going to come in with a white pen, and this is the Uniball Signo, which is my current favorite white pen. And I want to put just a highlight on the white berry and on the red berries. Okay, so we're just going to, it's just a dot, and it just does the trick. So I'm going to put a little white dot on each one of these blueberries. Well, that's going to be a bigger wet dot. That's okay. Something stuck on there. Okay. There we go. All good. And on these, not quite in the center, kind of on the top of it, so it looks like this. It's a little light hitting it. And then I have a gold Uniball Signo. This is lovely. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to hit those berries in the middle of the poinsettia and in the middle of the little white flowers. Just a dot of gold on each one of those. It'll be subtle. And then you know what else I'm going to do? Because I'm so brave, on this one, I'm just going to add a little vein of the gold on those leaves. You don't want to go crazy with your gold marker, even though it's easy to go crazy with your gold marker. Just one little mark. And there you have it. I think this is really pretty. The other thing I might consider doing is, if I'm going to do this as just a single original piece of art, I might add a gold border to this, or I might round the corners, especially if I was going to do a one-off like menu card or something. Probably round the corners and then do a gold border, and that would be really pretty. But I am calling this one finished. I am calling this one festive, and I am calling this one super fun to do. Sorry, I was trying for alliteration. Didn't quite work. But anyway, and I'm also calling this a wonderful place to hang out. I love your comments. I thank you so much for being here. I appreciate how brave you are in trying some of these designs. And thank you for being here. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.